were looking at a wide variety of lines in the Berlin and all sorts of different openings. And I remember the day that we looked at this, it was a day that I looked at a certain other opening with the black pieces. And after I looked at that opening, it was like late in the evening, we moved on to this knight bd to a4 line. And for some reason, what we concluded was that after knight a7, bishop to e2, knight c6, the line that we had looked at, the line we were expecting, was something like h3 here. And obviously Timur probably will watch a stream too at some point, or he'll see the YouTube video and he'll learn this. But I'm not playing any chess till the end of August, so I really don't care about giving away secrets now. Once again, as I think you guys know, this is best of one, so okay, there we go, best of one. So if you do lose a game, it's just all over. That's it. All right, so we're playing. Let me move got some more space for my mouse. He plays e4. I'm going to stick to what I did yesterday. I thought my position was fine out of the opening, so not going to go too crazy. I guess I'll play this. If he wants to make a draw with the Berlin, I'm not really opposed to that, so let's see what he does. He plays c3, so I'm going to castle. Now of course he can trade if he wants to, but this is a very long line with rook e8 and so forth, so let's see what he does. I'll pre-move it, I guess. Yeah, he castles, so now I play d5 and away we go. Plays knight bd2, logical move. Now I had this in the candidates ironically enough against Timur Radjabov, so it is something that I have looked at. Okay, so he plays queen c2, so I'm gonna go queen e7. Plays a4. Now knight a7 is what I played, but I'm gonna play knight b8 this time. Knight a7 is what I played against Radjabov, but I'm gonna play knight b8 and change it up just a little bit, play a slightly different line. No doubt Bortnyk actually looked at this, by the way. If he's playing this line, it's very clear that he did look at this. Take the mouse off the board so that no mouse slips, no mishaps, etc. And we'll see what he does here. Okay, now he's thinking for a bit. Now the idea behind knight b8 is quite simple. Play c6 and reroute with knight bd7. So he goes bishop e2. I think I'm gonna play bishop g4 and knight bd7 next. I mean, this position is completely fine for me, no worries whatsoever. Knight c4. Now I can play knight d7. I mean, I can also play knight c6 here. I mean, I can also even just trade, but I'm not going to do that, of course. So the question is which line do I want to play? I think I'm going to play knight bd7, just keep it very simple. He has knight e3, but after knight e3, bishop e6, knights are a little bit misplaced, and I think I'm in very good shape. So let's see what he chooses to play here. Now h3 is a move, bishop g5, knight e3, maybe bishop e3, but a lot of options. Let's see what he does.
We've got their lifetime record, which is 472 wins for Hikaru, 143 wins for Bortnyk, and 82 draws. So Hikaru's got a slightly better than 3-1 record in the wins and losses if you don't count the draws. I guess you should count the draws as well. And you know, Bortnyk's record's about as good as anyone's record is against Hikaru, in other words.
I was gonna say like 3-1, like yeah, big lead to Hikaru, but also like not bad for Bortnyk.
Right, he might, like, Hikaru's got a big lead, but Bortnyk might have like the world lead of like, what's your record against Hikaru?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go here, keep it simple. If g4, I just go bishop g6, then he has problems with pawn on e4, so he can't really play g4. Let's see what he's gonna do here. So he does play knight h4, so of course, well, not of course, but I probably should trade. Now I can play queen e6 here. I can also play g6 at some moment. It's just a question of what the best order is. Now queen e6 makes a lot of sense just to target the knight on c4. If knight f5, I always have g6. I can also play rook fd8 and then bishop f8 as well, so I'm pretty happy with the position so far. Let's see what he does here. He's thinking. It goes bishop g5, which I actually don't really like as a move. It doesn't feel quite right somehow, but it's probably still decent. Just probably very drawish. I I mean, I can play h6, we trade, and heads towards drawish territory. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to keep this a little bit more maybe on the edge with rook e8. I mean, I don't know if I should play rook e8, but it makes sense. G6 also makes a lot of sense here, but I think I'm just gonna go rook e8 and just consolidate my position as much as I can.
What would you say Bortnyk's plan against h6 is? Even though it doesn't come, but like there's this problem for white that the bishop on c1 sort of has nowhere to go because it's your good bishop, so maybe you don't want to trade it, but he puts it on g5. And you know, in general, what would he do if Hikaru played h6 somewhere in here?
That's a good question. I could see him taking on f6. I could also see him going back bishop e3 and saying, now when I play knight f5, maybe the h6 pawn is a little bit more of a weakness. But I'm honestly not sure, actually. I would, because Hikaru, he spent some time there, so he was thinking about it, but he ends up not playing h6.
Yeah, I was thinking he might even drop back to d2 to avoid trades, and then put the knight on f5 and say that h6 is like really a move that you don't want as black. So for the moment, Hikaru is avoiding it, and if that's the case, then Bortnyk's probably pretty happy to have the bishop off of c1 for the moment.
Right. Yeah. Now he goes rook fd1, queen c6 from Hikaru, just kind of targeting, the e pawn, and also keeping an eye on the a pawn. And there could be some like bishop takes f2 tactic at some point as well, because the knight on c4 is a little bit loose.
Careful,
so, yeah.
Also, knight e4 itself is a complicated move because of d7, right? Like queen e4, knight e4 would have to be calculated carefully, but what are Bortnyk's choices right here? He can't play f3.
He goes rook d,
d1,
e1. Interesting. I mean, it's like, it's kind of admitting error in a way, because he just played rook fd1.
Yeah.
But it's also it seems to me like a very practical move. You're just like, you know what? Black has some threats with the e pawn. I can't go f3. Let me just defend it. I'm not gonna like spend 2 minutes here looking for like the best way to like tactically defend the pawn. Let me just defend the pawn. My position's still fine. And I mean, Bortnyk's a little bit down on the clock, but definitely still manageable, right? Just a minute and a quarter there. So
I mean, that is the one thing that I do have to say. I assume I'm a favorite in a lot of the tiebreak situations. Like if we get to blitz or bullet and I can't beat him, that is my fault. Like it's just my fault. So on paper, at least, I am a slight favorite there. So that is the one thing that I do have to keep in mind when I'm playing like this game, is like how much of a risk do I really want to take here? I'm trying to think about whether I should play knight h5 and knight f4 or something of that nature. I mean, h6 is completely reasonable. Knight h5 and maybe h6. Knight h5 looks like a pretty reasonable move. I think I'm gonna do it, even though I suspect, it feels right, but it also feels a little bit shaky somehow. This feels a touch shaky, but do I do it? Or do I just play something like rook e6, which is very stable, or something else like knight h5? Knight h5 is, I think I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna play knight h5. It's no good, but I'm gonna go for it. We'll see. This might not be very smart by me, but I mean, I feel like I should be okay here. See what he's gonna play. He's thinking for a while. Rook ad1 h6 is probably okay for me. Let me keep the mouse off the board. That way, no mishaps, no insane mouse slip or anything of that nature.
Well, I guess he's trying to figure out if knight f4 is a threat, and if he can. I feel like the move you would like to play is like rook ad1, but number one, the a pawn is hanging. Okay, then he goes rook ad1, so he needed to make sure that he can justify this one. And Hikaru, I guess if queen takes a4, he might have had some knight takes e5.
Knight takes e5, opening up this.
Yeah. And Hikaru quickly goes h6.
Yeah. Bishop c1 looks good to me. Now the bishop's not out there dangling in like a queen a4 knight e5 line. You don't want the bishop on g5 at the end, I guess.
Yeah, just in general, it's great on c1.
Actually, you know, on queen a4, like I'm not sure about what he's up to, because knight e5, knight e5. Now this one's hanging right here, right? And then if you trade, the rook covers things. I mean, I was already nervous about having your bishop here, right? That you would play like queen h5, h6 and lose, but here you definitely lose.
Yeah, you know, maybe the answer was rook takes d7 and then going knight f takes e5.
Here at knight f e5, yeah.
I don't know. Engine doesn't seem to be too impressed, so I'm not really sure, but clearly there was a reason both players thought the a pawn was not touchable.
I still don't think this is clear though. I still think there's play in the position. So let's see what he does. Now he goes g4. Very, very bold move. G4 to me feels like he's admitting that he's done something wrong. So by playing g4, I mean, that looks just absolutely insane somehow. I think I'm going to play knight c5 and go after this pawn. I can also do a rook lift as well, which is a large part of my plan here. I mean, g4 just feels like a bad move. Now maybe a computer's going to say I could have just grabbed the pawn on b3, but computers can play their own game. I'm only human. But objectively, this does not look good for white. This really doesn't look good. Yeah, he plays g5. I mean, I see his idea. He wants to go for some knight f7 cheese somewhere. But it just should not really work.
Yeah. Okay, he's going for this plan, and yeah, we can see the engine hates it. Of course, it's always harder over the board, but the problem is white's king is going to be opened up, and it's very hard to imagine how white gets anything on the g file anytime soon. And even if they do, it's like bishop on f8 is covering g7. Black can go g6 at any moment to secure the pawn that way. But clearly he felt he's just losing on the queen side, so it's a rapid game. You have to at least try something. And we'll see how Hikaru, I mean, so far I feel like he's just playing super solid. We'll see how he tries to exploit this one.
Chess is definitely harder when you don't know the evaluation. So, you know, Hikaru won't have, you know, total confidence or anything like that. But I suspect that right now in this game, both Bortnyk and Naka understand that g4, g5 is kind of desperation. You know, I think they both understand the evaluation must be in Black's favor. Now, as complications come up, you know, they won't know that no matter what, everything is holding steady in that way.
I suspect knight e4 is winning, by the way, as well, but I think this is probably safer, and I don't have to deal with a bunch of the risk. That's my assessment, at least, which could be very wrong. It could be wrong for sure. Okay, so he takes. Now I think what I do is I play queen b3, and I don't see a good way. There's no infiltration. Yeah, I don't see his moves here. That's the thing. Like, this knight looks really good, but the knight covers the mate threats, and the knight on c4 is super soft. I can play rook d8, trade off some rooks. c3 is weak. Yeah, he plays king h2, so I know that I'm winning now. I know that this is winning. It's just a matter of finding some good moves. Now knight a4 seems like a very good move to play. The only thing I have to be careful of is not to make a huge blunder and throw this game. That's really all that remains. It's just to be clean and find a couple of good moves. Now if I play knight a4, I think knight a4 is just very good. I'm just going to go for something very obvious, and the knight on c4 is super weak. Pawn on c3 is weak. I mean, this should be winning for me. Should being the key word, of course. But we'll see what he does. He does have some rook d7 nonsense, I just realized, but that shouldn't really concern me. It goes bishop d2, which I also don't really understand as a move, because now, I mean, I have knight b6 to trade the knights, but then he goes there. Rook d8 looks like the right move. Rook d8. Oh, then he has knight a5 maybe, but then queen c2. I mean, this looks rook a d8, rook b1. Yeah, I don't see it. I'm just gonna play it. Time does matter a little bit here. So he takes, which I expect. Now I have queen a2 to hit everything. I have queen c2, which is the obvious human move. Queen a2 looks right to me, but let's see. Queen a2, knight c6 maybe. So queen c2, knight c6, knight c3, bishop c3, queen e2. But queen c2 is queen c4, so I think this is correct. Let's go here. Because now, the thing is, I think on queen c2 there might be some nastiness with queen c4. Maybe it's no good, but I'm not 100% sure, so this just makes a ton of sense. And the problem is that I'm also hitting this. It's like I'm hitting everything along the diagonals. And I think I'm just probably winning here. Unless there's some trick that I'm missing. Goes knight c... Wait, so if I play knight c3... What am I missing? Bishop c3, queen e2. I don't think I'm missing anything. This takes is winning. Queen f3 yeah, he just blundered. I mean, this is game over. I should just be winning here. Unless there's something very obvious that I missed. But he's thinking, which means it doesn't exist. So yeah, we're gonna get a win. Gonna get a win. Finally a good start to an RCC. I mean, the last couple of weeks that I've played have not been very good. I mean, I lost that horrible game to Jules Moussard where I didn't win the first game in a completely winning position. Then I had that terrible blitz game. Then I lost the final game in the bullet, which was even worse. But at least for the first time in probably like 2 months, maybe not 2 months, but maybe a month and a half, I'm actually gonna win the first match and I'm gonna move on to the semifinals. So very, very good start. Very, very good stuff. I don't really see anything for white here, and the longer that Bortnyk thinks, the more clear it becomes that there just is nothing, as far as I can tell. So this is very, very good. Very clean, very solid game. I mean, I'm very happy, of course. So I take, obviously. Now, queen a4 is a good move. Rook d6 is just very clean, honestly. Rook d2 is probably not right. Queen a4... Actually, why would I play queen a4 when I can just move the rook to d7? Actually, or d6. Okay, no mouse. Let's take the hand off the mouse. Actually, I think rook d6 is cleanest. Yeah, this looks very clean. He has to go like knight b4, and then I go queen a4. I mean, as long as I don't hang some cheese on f7, this is over. Or as a mouse up, obviously. That would be catastrophic as well. So I'll take the mouse off. Sometimes I do wish, maybe there is a way, but sometimes I do wish on chess.com there was a way that you could type in your moves at the end just to like 100% eliminate the risk of a mouse slip. Okay, he plays rook b1. I think takes is good enough on d2, but I'm really not in the mood to gamble, so I think I'm going to go rook b6. Yeah, let's just go here. Just no gamble. I mean, I think he's going to resign pretty soon. This just looks completely lost. 10 seconds. Tick-tock. Yeah, I think this is it. He plays queen d3 to go queen c4. Keeps one last trick in his pocket, which I did see this, but I think I'm just going to be really nasty here and go queen d7. Just really nasty move here because he can't trade. That hangs d2, but there's also c5, which I think is just GG's as well.
C5.
By the way, as he's resigning, folks, let's just take a moment to recognize Bortnyk's strength. Okay, the guy has like 15 seconds on the clock here, or maybe 10 to 15 on this move. Rook b6 is played. It's like a nail in the coffin, and you already knew you were in a coffin, and you know the guy's taking another piece from you. And do you guys see the move he found here? Queen d3. Defending the rook on b1 and preparing to answer bishop b4 with queen c4. I mean, to find that was just a couple seconds instead of resigning. You can see why other people other than Hikaru can't beat this guy.
No, and I had a very similar experience myself against him, and I think some title Tuesday. I was like up a piece in the end game with like a minute, and increment, like plenty of time. And I still ended up losing. It's just too tricky. Just very, very quick and fast. No, I mean, of course, he's one of the world's best, right? It's just Hikaru that's making him look like he's not.
I think bishop d6 is actually the cleanest way to win, most likely. queen f4. Logical move. Let's think. What are the ways to win here? Takes, check, rook f6, and knight e4 looks pretty clean. Okay, let me make sure there's no trick. Rook f6, rook g7, I just take. Rook f6 takes, knight e4 is game over. How much GG's? There we go. All right, we get the win. Very good first game, and we move on to the semifinals. Everybody move on to the semis, which is very, very good, obviously, because that means you guys are not going to get a 30-minute short stream like you did last time. I think very last time I played the RCC, I played I think I played Jules. I think it was against Jules, and it was like a 30-minute stream. I was in a very sour mood. But today, no nonsense. We're full of business. And this is one thing I will say that is actually very rough about the RCC is Bortnyk had a great performance yesterday, but it means pretty much nothing when it comes to knockouts. And as I've said, I think the number one seed generally does pretty poorly on average. So pretty happy. All right. So we got the win. Queen takes h3, queen e3, queen e5. I mean, everything was smooth. But let me go through the game while we wait for the next one to see. Actually, let me see. I can turn this on so you guys can see it. And turn off the logo for 1 second. Let's see. So everything was fine. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about this game for just a second. So I'm going to take you guys back to a month and a half ago. Okay. So we're going to go back 1.5 months. I was in the great state of Colorado. Springs, in fact, and I was reviewing chess with my trainer, Christopher Littlejohn. Now, we were looking at a wide variety of lines in the Berlin and all sorts of different openings. And I remember the day that we looked at this, it was a day that I looked at a certain other opening with the black pieces. And after I looked at that opening, it was like late in the evening, we moved on to this knight bd2 a4 line. And for some reason we just, or sorry, let me, I don't know why I did that. I just ruined the story. But basically we were looking late in the evening after a very long session of training. And I remember looking at this very briefly. And what we concluded was that after knight a7, bishop to e2, knight c6, the line that we had looked at, the line we were expecting, was something like h3 here. Now the problem, and this is why it's very hard when you study chess with computers, is when Timur played knight b3 against me in my game, I realized the difference of what was going on. And the problem is here, when you use a supercomputer and you look deeper, every single move here, basically bishop d6 and bishop b6 are both fine. Bishop a7 is kind of shaky, the one that I played in the game and kind of went for broke against Timur. But the problem is when you look at it as a human, after bishop d6, knight fd2, it looks kind of scary here, because the problem is white's going to go knight c4, let's just say hypothetically h6, knight c4, and you feel like white's going to be able to get rid of the bishop and have the bishop pair here. But computers basically show us that if white in fact trades this and plays like bishop e3, there's knight takes e4, even something like rook f8 followed by d5, and black is actually better here. So again, when you're looking at it with a computer laughs in your face. It's like, why are you afraid? Who cares about the bishop pair? Who cares about anything? But if I was looking at this as a human without the computer, I probably would have asked myself, well, isn't knight b3 an idea in this position after bishop e2, knight c6, because of this idea of knight fd2 and knight c4 and so forth. But at any rate, the problem is I didn't look at that. So during the game, when I realized that this was what I looked at and he played knight b3, I kind of was like, I don't know, this feels a little bit iffy, so I might as well go bishop a7, bishop g4. It looks promising, and play the game. Now, as it turns out, it didn't really work out for me. But that's sort of the lore behind this line and behind basically this game today. So I did want to point that out for all you guys who are watching. And obviously Timur probably will watch a stream too at some point, or he'll see the YouTube video and he'll learn this. But I'm not playing any chess till the end of August, so I really don't care about giving away secrets now.